Thanks for making time for our voice here on the Insight Myanmar podcast. It is a dream to be creators on this special project, and every listener and meditator who benefits in any way from our work only adds to our sense of satisfaction. So we just want to take this time to give a gentle reminder that our work is 100% listener-supported. All of us behind the curtain are meditators, with some volunteering their time and others offering a generous discount on their professional services. However, we can't produce episodes without finding a way to keep the lights on. So if you like what you're hearing, stick around for the donation request and consider giving to help us continue our mission. Thanks, and enjoy the listening that follows.
If we are complacent and don't do really aggressive containment and mitigation, the number could go way up, many, many millions.
To be isolating patients, emphasizing social distancing.
Wuhan, China confirmed the coronavirus outbreak is now a pandemic.
That COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
In Italy, one of the worst affected countries, the pace
and business supply chains are being disrupted around the globe. This combination of people being unable to
It's confirmed the coronavirus outbreak is now a pandemic.
Change for sure to the better.
We will realize
see an opportunity in this situation.
Please make your compassion and
whatever
loving kindness
karma
to the
that is
people.
good you have done
we are all looking out for each other.
Due to COVID-19, the meditators become more conscious.
They can use this time to grow in Dhamma.
Kick out your negative minds.
People can become closer to each other.
Please send in metta to all over the world, all over the universe.
It will change for sure.
Practice and let's work hard more and more for sending loving kindness.
People can learn how to help each other, how to love, seeing new horizons of life.
I do see some positive aspects of this corona crisis in the world. We see that, in a sense, that brings people also closer together. People getting closer together and watching out for each other. We have more time for our families, for the community, and time to meditate.
Please make your compassion and loving kindness.
It was kind of actually very warm and very, very kind of them. Stabilize the heart. This reminder of this uncertainty of life, when we don't know. See what we can do and what we cannot do. What we can accomplish and what we cannot.
Remember peace in the face of suffering.
Welcome to the 5th episode in our ongoing COVID-19 in Myanmar series. Up till now, we've completed episodes featuring local Burmese voices, women, monks, and exiled expats. For today's show, we bring you Sheltering in Place. This particular episode contrasts with the previous one in the series, which told the stories of 4 expats who left just before the world closed down. The current show relates the stories of 4 expats who were living in Myanmar at the time the pandemic hit and made the decision to remain in the country and ride out the storm in the Golden Land. Their reasons for staying are quite diverse. One is committed to remain with his local partner who was from Yangon. Another was meditating in Upper Myanmar and didn't wish to leave this Dhamma environment. A third oversees a business and charitable mission of providing meals as many poor are beginning to go without food. And the fourth has a wife, daughter, and a golden retriever to care for, and decided that uprooting them was the harder choice. Although Myanmar has thus far been saved by the brunt of the coronavirus's impact, as of this recording in mid-July, there have been just 331 cases. At the start of the pandemic, there was massive concern about the damage that would be caused if the virus swept through the country, given the poor infrastructure and depleted healthcare system. For the time being, Burmese are holding their breath as the virus is being kept at bay for whatever reason, and the government has just confirmed that heavy restrictions will remain in place for foreign visitors until at least October. But at the time that the four guests on today's podcasts had to make a decision as to what to do next, there was fear of a possibly catastrophic unknown. With that, let's get right to our program. We know that this continues to be a challenging time for many people out there, listeners included, and we wish you to keep safe and healthy. First up, we hear from Hampus Haraldsson, a Swedish yogi who had planned a series of courses, self-retreats, travel, and Buddhist study in Myanmar this year. He was taking a metta course at Chamye Monastery in Pyin Oo Lwin when the pandemic hit. He decided not to return home, and as Burmese monasteries and meditation centers began to close their doors to foreign practitioners, he had to find a place to continue his practice.
Hello everyone. My name is Hampus, and I'm a Swedish yogi, right now staying at a tea farm outside of Pyin Oo Lwin, around 2 hours from Mandalay. And the tea farm is sort of an eco-friendly guest house. Now with just 3 yogis staying here because of the virus. And I ended up here because I went to a meditation retreat at the Sayagyi meditation center here outside of Pyin Oo Lwin. And it felt like the easiest way to not travel so far and just stay put in a nice environment with a lot of nature. So we stay in tents and we basically have the whole place for ourselves. And when we arrived, they were quite scared actually. So they greeted us with plastic gloves and face masks and just, yes, quite spooky setup somehow, like not really having any experience with the virus before coming here, just being inside the meditation center when this whole pandemic started to explode basically and all the countries shutting down and so forth. But we had a kind of recommendation letter, you could say, maybe, from the meditation center. So, which told that we don't have any symptoms and that we've basically been staying in monasteries for many months. So after that, they kind of relaxed, took off their gloves and the face mask as well. And now we're still the only guests here. It's been like 3 weeks. And because of we not really been able to go outside, they've started cooking for us. So they've really been helping us to be able to get food and everything we need in order to be here in a relaxed way. I feel quite fortunate during these times to be able to stay so close to nature, and having other yogis together here with me, it has made me able to keep the practice and go up early in the morning, do walking and sitting meditation before breakfast. And a couple of days ago, I did a solo retreat here, telling my friends that I will be silent for 3 days and shutting off my phone and just tapping into what's really present in me in this moment. And my main goal being basically to get rid of some of the bad habit patterns that's been developing during this time of going online and not really knowing how to cope with the situation and all the uncertainty, and just falling back into some bad habits of thinking and action and talking, everything actually. And it was really helpful. And next to our tent there's a big tree with nice shade. So since the first day I've been having a nice setup underneath there with a mosquito net that the meditation center so kindly donated to me to bring along. And so I've spent many hours there, and it's been very calming and really helping me to to like tune out from this big dramatic scenario that's now playing out in the world, and somehow bringing back some control of how I should respond to this change in Myanmar and in the world in general, and how to really find a good way to incorporate this in my way of being, but not making it into some kind of strong, fearful thing that will just keep me from really understanding and realizing what I really should do with my time and my life here now in Myanmar. And I basically am quite happy with staying here. It's just all this regulation now makes it really difficult for me to really know what I can do and what's my next step. I'm quite okay not being able to do anything now in April, just being here and waiting and seeing how things develop. But in May, I am hoping that some meditation centers or monasteries will open up their gates again and allowing us who clearly don't have any symptoms to enter, and maybe finding some balanced way to cope with this virus now being a part of our existence here now in the world. And I'm thinking that one way to do this could be to have like people in separate rooms, to have big space between people in the dining hall and in the meditation hall, and maybe quarantine people before they enter the monastery. And the big thing that's going to happen next is, of course, the Vasa, the rains retreat. And as I've understood, the custom or the tradition says that you should arrive a bit early. So that means that some monasteries should open again in June in order for the Vasa. But if that's not happening, maybe I'll try to leave the country and go somewhere else. But I still have faith that this rains retreat will happen and that I will find a nice place to stay. During the global outbreak of the virus, I was deep in a meditation retreat in the Chiang Mai Center. And this retreat came to have three distinct parts for me. The first week was a normal retreat with noble silence and not any connection with the outside world, not even with the yogis inside. And the second week, when things really started to escalate, our teacher Viranyani decided to drop the bomb one evening before the chanting. And now things really started to change, even for us. And considering we were an international group with many people having plans to leave the country afterwards, we really needed now to stop the disconnection or like the inner part of the retreating, and to look out and see if the flights were still going and if everyone was okay in their own countries and so forth. And in the dining hall, the first days, we had like an information sheet with all the new regulations taking place. But that information slowly were not enough for changing too rapidly. So in the end, quite a few yogis had to rebook their flights and change their plans and really leave the country sooner than they wanted to. And the third week, me and Yasuhito were the only international yogis still in the center. And now we were joined together with the Burmese yogis. They were maybe 15 or something like that. So suddenly we were a big group again. And now my plans in April, as for almost everyone else, they were not really happening. So then suddenly I didn't really know what to do anymore. And I asked the Sayadaw if I could stay. But this being like a 1-month retreat, and the new guidance or the new regulations from the government being that all the people in the monasteries should go home. My Sayadaw in the center, he didn't really want more people there. So that's why me and this Japanese man ended up in a guest house close to the center now. And I know that some of my friends now, they are still in the monasteries because these Sayadaws, they felt that they could challenge this regulation from the government, and just feeling like, okay, people can stay. Because all of us being on the inside of the monastery were of course no problem, because we didn't have the virus. So, and because the water festival not really happening now in the monasteries, seeing so many of my fellow meditators leaving, and that the opportunity for me to do the same would soon disappear, this could have created a lot of fear and doubt in me and my decision to stay longer in Myanmar. But it really helped me being in a meditation center and having the clarity of mind that that kind of environment gives you, and to make a big decision like that. But of course, regret of my decision could soon come. But making the decision with such deep sense of calm and connectedness, I'm still confident that this was the right choice. And also having a new meditation visa soon finished during that time, and knowing that it was much worse in Sweden and in Europe than in Myanmar, the decision didn't seem so bad to stay actually. And in the end, it also felt like the Dhamma were now expecting of me to stay here a bit longer and to stay put and face whatever happens. Already having an experience of coming out of a retreat during a crisis, the Indian money crisis 2016, this situation didn't seem that difficult to me. But of course this might change. But knowing that the Burmese people have faced many difficulties over the years, I feel quite confident they know how to handle this situation mentally if it should last for a long time. So when you're traveling like this, you always get an identity, whether you like it or not. And having to leave the life of a meditator and yogi in the Burmese monastery behind, something new needed to take its place. So now, becoming a stranded foreigner instead, even sometimes a tourist, I suddenly needed to consider things like costs per day, how to get food, and getting full control of every hour of my day again. After 4 months meditation, this last thing, getting the control, didn't feel so bad. And I was a bit curious also to see how life has changed outside now with the virus, and to face those challenges. We were quite lucky that me and these other 2 former yogis, we found a nice guest house, cheap enough so we could stay there for 1 or 2 months. But now, because of that, we have to renounce some of the luxuries we had in the center. But I mean, that's a part of the practice, I think, to just adapt to the new circumstances. So now I don't have my own room and I don't have so easily available electricity, but after a few days this turns into normal and not that difficult if you like the people around you. The government has made it almost impossible for us to move or do anything with our new mobility so far. So being behind the tea farm's locked gate feels very similar being behind the monasteries. Yeah, sometimes almost like a joke. We're lucky we didn't get stuck in a hotel, because a hotel is not really made to stay in for weeks on end. Just having one room to move can easily turn into a prison, I think, with now a scary world outside. So it's no surprise we heard about a Westerner flipping out at her hotel recently. The spaciousness of the tea farm feels like a mental lifesaver right now, with weeks going by with a sense of ease. And the small changes we can make, like moving our chair or walking in different areas and seeing nature develop, I think that's really, really important right now. To stay here now at the tea farm, waiting, it means we need to accept whatever few possibilities we will get in the future. And as a stranded tourist, I will probably leave quite soon. But as a meditating yogi, I might not feel that much difference, so that's why I think I should stay. If I have a choice, I will continue to use my visa for its purpose of meditation. Being in Myanmar has always been an opening experience for me. A time when I managed to face things in myself that I've been trying to escape before. All these self-defense mechanisms. And this time has of course been special. The opening now not only being about the suffering in my own mind, but on a much more interpersonal and systemic level. And it has helpfully forced me, and probably many others, to see the bigger picture of this samsara. The virus has, through its spread, shown me all these connections, how much we affect each other and how rapidly our civilization actually can change if there's a reason to do it. If enough people agree to support new ideas, things seem to move. So I'm thinking, when this crisis ends, let's not forget that power. By each one of us cultivating our mindfulness and wisdom, and the compassion and loving kindness and so forth that brings, it becomes much more likely that this power that we have is guided by right thoughts, speech and actions. So wherever you are listening now, may your practice gain a sense of urgency during this standstill. And when the world and we can start moving, then maybe we together can push things forward to a much nicer future.
Next, we check in with Marc Shortt, the founder of Sabah Street Food Tours. Marc's love of food led to the development of this business, and also made him aware of how local vendors were being impacted by the sudden loss of revenue once the city shut down. Partnering with the organization Food Not Bombs Myanmar, he led a fundraising effort to buy food from these vendors and offer it to underserved communities in downtown Yangon and Hledan. For those who would like to help his cause, please find his page on Instagram at Sabah Street Food, Facebook at Sabah Street Food Tours, and on the web at sabahstreetfoodtours.com.
So my name's Marc Shortt, and I run Sabah Street Food Tours, which is a food tour company based in Yangon, Myanmar. We do different food tours, market tours, cooking lessons, and some street food catering. I first came to Myanmar in 2012, and I came here initially as a volunteer English teacher, which then turned into being a paid-for English teacher. Was here for a year in 2012. A very interesting time to come. So one reason I came to Myanmar is because I have some family connections. My dad was born here, and there was a few generations of my family that lived here before him. And I wanted to come and explore my ancestral roots. So after being here for a year in 2012, I headed back to Europe, but was missing this place the whole time. So came back in 2017, and as per usual for me, I love exploring food. I love food. Food is one of the ways that I like to explore a country. So that's what I've been doing in Myanmar. And very gratefully managed to be able to turn my interest and passion for food into a profession, into starting up a small tour company whereby we can take people around and introduce them to all of the diverse and amazing foods that exist in Myanmar, but also help people to explore Myanmar culture, Myanmar history, through the food, and also allow tourists and visitors to get to see the real faces and people and real situations in downtown Yangon, as we go to all sorts of small street tea shops and stalls, and I have a lot of fun showing people what's cooking in Yangon. We have a small team of local Myanmar guides who are also foodie experts who we spend our time showing people what's cooking in Yangon. They're a completely different organization, but they've been doing like cooking food and giving it away for a few years now. So they're experts on where these people are who need it most, which we didn't know really at first. So Food Not Bombs were able to be a great help and show us where best we can donate the food. Well, we saw the wave of corona creeping up on Myanmar and creeping up on Yangon, and we didn't go down into kind of lockdown here until I think it was March the 23rd, which was a little bit after some other countries that we saw it happening to. So seemed like society and downtown was carrying on quite staunchly up until that point. And then when the country had to go into lockdown, and then also Dinjan, the Myanmar New Year or the Myanmar Water Festival was coming up, which was essentially shut down this year. It's usually a huge celebration. Super busy time for vendors as well, who are selling food to the party goers and the revelers. It began a situation that the market started being closed down. Just a few markets that people were able to shop at. Also, food vendors were being shut down. Street vendors weren't able to sell out on the street anymore, and also people weren't going outside. So that meant there was no customers for street food vendors, and also less customers going to the market to support the vendors there. Now, I live in downtown Yangon. I'm always out and about, if not for work, but personally, I know a lot of the street food vendors and the market vendors, and also the Trishaw guys who we use on our tours, and also I use for just riding around downtown and myself. So even during lockdown, I'd be going out, going to the markets to buy bits and bobs I needed, and I couldn't help but notice that things were getting a bit desperate for people, and still are. And most of these people, they don't have a financial safety net, like in some parts in the West, that there's governments trying to give handouts and support to people. A lot of people here are relying on their savings. So I wanted to try and do something to help these people, and just try and do something positive at the moment, because everything's so negative in the news, and it's a pretty rough situation. And even for my business, we don't have any customers, because we deal with mostly visitors to Yangon, of which there really isn't any at the moment. So good opportunity to just not be stagnant too. And I think it's just really important to try and do positive stuff at the moment. So that's what we're trying to do. Many people are living day to day, especially in terms of finances. You know, some people are on very low wage. Some people are making 3,000 jap, 3,000 jap a day in some cases, which is less than $2. So when COVID is affecting the economy like it is in Myanmar and Yangon, it trickles down, and it's trickling down to those people who aren't in a position to hunker down, stay indoors, and rely on savings. I think it's important that those people aren't forgotten about at the current time. I really wanted to support the vendors in some way. Didn't want them to think that they'd been forgotten about. Yeah, I really wanted to find a way that we could support the vendors, because I didn't want them to think that they'd been forgotten about at the moment. And what they do best is they can cook food. And ultimately, there's people in downtown who would really welcome some food at the moment. It's a morale booster. If we can provide one meal for them in a day, then that's a little bit of extra cash that they can keep in their pocket, maybe put it towards something that they need. In some of the communities that we go to, there's big families. Some people have multiple kids and young kids. Even lots of babies will come running out with the parents when we come to bring the food. So I really wanted to try to find a way to help them. And we came up with a process of working with the vendors to cook their food, and then be able to give that away. So unfortunately, it's not something that Sabah can do on its own and fund on its own. So I put an announcement out on Facebook, asking people if they'd be willing to donate. People responded, and it was pretty amazing. Kind of shocked. In the first, I think, 48 hours, we'd raised maybe over $1,000. And initially we were working on a budget of for approximately $45. We could buy 100 portions from certain street food vendors. So that meant for $45 we could essentially give people a feed for $45, 100 people. Since then we've expanded it a little bit. So we also buy some fruits and vegetables from market vendors, which we then give away to the people who need it. We'd also buy some water, which we make sure that we buy from small family-run stores. And then also we employ some trishaw riders, sidecar guys, who operate in downtown. They've also been quite seriously affected by the COVID situation because they're one of those services where people will, if they're struggling for money, they'll choose to walk instead of riding a trishaw. Or trishaws are used a lot in markets to carry food around or help the vendors set up. Now, if those markets have been closed down or moved on, that has a knock-on effect with the trishaw riders as well. So as part of this program, we're employing trishaw riders for the donation who come around with our volunteers. They carry the food and they help us distribute it. So the three main groups that we're trying to help with this are, one, the street food vendors who cook the food and we pay to cook the food. Two, communities in downtown that are homeless or hungry. And number three is the trishaw guys who are also in need of a little bit of money at the moment. And they're able to use their skills and help us with the distribution too. Sabah, we're always dealing with the street food vendors, both on our tours, but also we do some street food catering. So we work together with street food vendors. We find the best street food vendors who make a particular dish. And then all together we go to events, parties, some for NGOs, sometimes for embassies, and in their space, in their garden, maybe we will cook up the food fresh for people at the party or at the event. That can be for like 100 or sometimes even 200 people. And we have good connections with these vendors and the people in downtown. So it wasn't too difficult for us to arrange that side of things. The problem for us was knowing where is the food most needed and where are the people that would welcome free food most. So I've known about Food Not Bombs for a while in Yangon. They're doing some really cool stuff, distributing food to people who need it most all over Yangon and various parts outside of Yangon too. They're a really nice crew. So I contacted one of the guys at the organization who runs it there, Giorgio. He is quite a famous punk in Yangon too, in Myanmar. And him and his crew were happy to come and join with us. And when we got started, they took us around spots in downtown. And it was, quite a shocking surprise in some cases because there were places that actually we didn't know existed to the extent that they do. So some little tucked away communities with 50 people living in pretty poor conditions, working in jobs which aren't very reliable, during COVID, and many of them, don't have jobs. And also, these people in these communities knew the Food Not Bombs crew before as well. They have a good relationship with them. So Food Not Bombs were able to hook us up with them and let them know that we're also coming in the afternoons to bring them food too. So prior to this, I didn't really have any experience working in something like this. So it's been a really incredible experience to see the people that we're able to help, and to see how happy the people are to receive the food. And I just think it's really important to do positive stuff, help your local neighborhoods at this time. No one knows, we don't know, no one really knows how long we're going to be feeling the fallout of COVID. So we with our donations, we reached the point of $7,000, which is going to allow us to keep going for quite some time. We're also now looking at setting up a similar donation in another area, Hledan, which is in Yangon as well. And it's an area where our friends at Food Not Bombs have told us that there's plenty of people who would welcome free food in the evenings. So at the moment, we're trying to get this all set up. At the moment, we're relying on the help of volunteers for downtown location and Hledan location. Volunteers who can help find vendors who are out of work or in need of some support, who can cook the food for us. And then with volunteers on the days, we all go together and we have the extra hands and manpower to hand it out. At Sabah, it's only just me and one of our former staff. She's now volunteering, and she's a local girl. So we're trying to organise and run it together there. Now, like I said, for the future, we don't know how long this is going to go on for. We're just ticking along. I didn't know what to expect when we set this up. I definitely wasn't expecting as much generosity and kindness and enthusiasm from people who wanted to support this. It's been kind of really touching to see it. That people share the same love and enthusiasm that we have for the downtown street scene, downtown street food vendors scene. Because for anyone who's ever lived in Yangon, ever been to Yangon, they know that one of the most amazing things about the place is the life and the atmosphere, the ambience of people on the streets just doing their thing. That's the entertainment. And people want to support that. And it's been really amazing to see that people want to get behind it and help out. So we're willing to keep doing this. We have to run a business at some point as well. So let's see if there's a tourist season that comes along this year. But we're definitely committed to helping all these people out. And we welcome anyone who wants to come along and support us as well.
The initial funds that allowed us to set up this Insight Myanmar podcast came unexpectedly, and we did our best to stretch them as far as possible. Unfortunately, that generous startup donation could not have predicted the pressing need to cover our exploding health crisis and meeting the interest and concern many meditators have expressed about the situation at Burmese monasteries and meditation centers. So, if you would like to hear podcasts that address this new content or assist others in being able to access them, please consider making a donation to fund this work. Most all podcast contributors work entirely as volunteers, and those few receiving remuneration are meditators who have offered 50% or more discount for their professional services. Nonetheless, there is still no real way to produce an episode for less than several $100s. Whatever funds we are able to collect now will be used solely for producing these new episodes, and any additional donations will allow us to increase our run. Thank you for your support. Stay safe and be well. We welcome your contribution in any amount, denomination, and transfer method. You may give via Patreon at patreon.com/InsideMyanmar, via PayPal at paypal.me/InsideMyanmar, or by credit card by going to insightmyanmar.org/donation. In all cases, that's Insight Myanmar, one word, INSIGHTMYANMAR. You can also go to the GoFundMe site and search Insight Myanmar to find our present campaign. If you are in Myanmar and would like to give a cash donation, please feel free to get in touch with us. Now we talk to Jochen Meissner, an Austrian meditator in the Sayagyi Khin tradition and the founder of Uncharted Horizons, which runs trekking and biking expeditions in Dalla and Chin State. To learn more about his work and support the charitable efforts he is now engaged in, please visit his Facebook page to learn more.
I live in Myanmar since 2012, 8 years now, and I'm in Yangon right now at the moment. And we also, since several weeks, under more or less semi-lockdown here. We still have some freedom to go outside, still practice sports, but I cannot go to any pagodas, for example, to practice meditation. They are all closed. But life is actually quite good in Yangon. I'm working in my own little tour company. And actually I was middle of March, I was traveling with guests in remote Chin State in the mountains at the border to India. Before there was Corona a little bit in the news, but it was distant thing happening in China somewhere. But this was then the first 2 weeks of March when there was everyday news. Oh, now in this country, there. Suddenly it happened everywhere. So this was the time, and especially then I returned back to Yangon on the 13th of March, and it's when it really started. Since that time, I'm in Yangon. I couldn't go anywhere. Got back to Yangon, middle of March. Yeah, friends were starting to go back to their home countries. There were these repatriation flights. I was thinking only for a short time, should I go back to Austria? But I'm living here in Myanmar since 8 years, and it's my home. I feel at home here. My partner is here, so I don't have much in Austria anymore. So I would have a place at my mother's place to sleep, but it was never really an option for me. So it was an easy decision to stay here in Myanmar, and I never regret it. When I saw other expats moving back to their countries, it was mostly embassy stuff or working for the UN or big NGOs, so they were simply called back by their employers or by their governments. But I'm self-employed. I have my own company here, so I saw no reason to go back. I always felt safe, very safe here in this country, and I still do, and I had no issues at all. I hear from other friends who live, who are expats in India or in Thailand, Vietnam, for example. They are quite in trouble, like locals becoming more and more hostile, like they associate foreigners with coronavirus. but nothing at all like this here in Yangon or in Myanmar in general. I feel safe. Everything is available. Supermarkets are open. All hospitals are operating. When I saw on the news and also here in Myanmar, when everything really started to shut down, like suddenly there were no more flights, there was travel restrictions, there was quarantine everywhere, then I actually realized that it's very, very serious, obviously, and something we've never had before. And for me personally, I run a tour company, adventure tour company for trekking, mountain biking. And obviously when all the borders shut down, there was suddenly, since middle of March, the tourist season was over and there were no tourists, no guests, no tours, no income at all anymore. This obviously made me realize most what's going on. So, but I have no any cases in my family or my friends. I don't know anyone personally, but also in Yangon, in downtown, many streets are shut down, like closed off, quarantine. My street, I live on 49th Street. Luckily, it's still open. I'm still free to go around. As you go out on the street in most places around the world these days, yeah, it's scary to see, these places since years always super busy, super crowded, lively, and now it's like dead, nothing, no one there. Also Yangon, like a ghost town. So in my everyday life, so I still go out. I'm a very active person, so I go for running, for jogging every day, but I make sure to keep social distance, so I go alone or I go together with my girlfriend, but we're not meeting any people and we also not having much conversations or meeting anyone else when we are out. I have a lot of conversations, of course, on Skype, WhatsApp with my family back home in Austria, with my friends here. But what I see when I go around here, what I'm most worried about is the people, like the normal people here, because there's no social security here. So I'm talking about the sellers in the markets, which are all shut down, the trishaw drivers, like the rickshaw drivers, who have no business at all anymore because there's no one here, no more potential customers. And that's what worries me, actually, how they can make a living, how they will be able to support their families. Like most foreigners who live here, or friends of mine, local friends who have studied, they all have good jobs, they have some savings so that they can for sure survive for several months. Like these people living on a day-to-day base, as I mentioned before, sellers, trishaw drivers, taxi drivers, they are the ones I'm worried about. Like the longer it's goes, of course, the more serious the situation will become for them. They have no income for many weeks. And yesterday evening, I went out for running, for an evening walk around People's Park and Shwedagon Pagoda in central Yangon. And yesterday was the Vesak Day, Myanmar called Kason, Full Moon Day, Buddha's birthday, like a very big holiday, usually in Myanmar, in Buddhist countries, and Shwedagon Pagoda usually super crowded there, and it was very interesting, like very unreal to see, like the pagoda, all the gates closed, the pagoda still illuminated, but all the gates closed, and only very few, a handful of people sitting outside with some candles and speaking, doing the prayers and meditation. This was maybe 20 people I saw at 7 p.m. at night. I go quite often to Shwedagon Pagoda, also on full moon days. Not so much to Shwedagon for meditation myself, because it's too busy for me. I need a very quiet place, but just to take in all the atmosphere and join the celebration and the festive atmosphere. But it was, usually there's thousands and thousands of people there on such days, and yesterday, no one. The whole situation has one positive aspect, and this is simply that I have more time to spend with myself, for myself, which I use on one side. I read a lot, also Dhamma-related book, but also self-development in general. But I also have more time for meditation, like during normal days, working days. I work 7 days a week from 7 a.m. in the morning, sometimes 6 to late at night. So I don't have time as much as I wish to have time for myself to practice meditation. Now, that's definitely a positive aspect for me personal. So I have more time to meditate at home, so I cannot go anywhere. Usually I'm mostly meditating at home in my room. I have my quiet corner, because I realized I'm very easy to distract. So I also tried to join in with local meditators at my local pagoda at Yicho, but I was not very successful in meditating there. So I have my quiet little sanctuary at home where I practice Vipassana now more than before. Like since the last 1 month I intensified. So I'm doing daily, trying 1 hour, which mostly works out. I practice general Vipassana, Anapana. I didn't meditate. I practice now since I started 11 years ago. But I would still consider myself rather pretty much a beginner stage. So I can see very much the benefits, and it helps me a lot. But I'm not a very advanced meditator. I started tradition Sayagyi Khin, IMC. That's the what I practice, what I learned, and the story is easy to explain, because just during my travels in Southeast Asia, starting from like 15, 18 years ago, I became very interested in Buddhism in general, and that's when I heard the first time about Buddhist meditation practices. It was in 2009, back in Austria, and I became really interested in meditation. So what I did basically was to use Google and see meditation in Austria. And I found out there's IMC, International Meditation Center, founded by Sayagyi Khin. There is one in Austria, in Carinthia, which I had no idea before it existed. I had a look at the homepage, and it looked very interesting. So I sent them an email, said, okay, we have a course, 10-day retreat starting in, it was 2 months from the date I sent the email. You're very welcome to attend. So, okay, let's do that. And this was in August 2009. I did my very first retreat in Austria. Another one followed in 2012 as well in Austria, and then in 2017 at the IMC in Yangon, I did my third retreat, and I was actually planning now to do one in May. But for the moment, also all meditation centers, or most of them, they, for obvious reason, they don't do official retreats. So I have to wait and practice by myself for the moment at home. Meditation is helping me for sure in general to keep calm and not to panic or not to worry too much or develop anxiety. Of course, I'm not at all for myself, but especially for the poor people in Myanmar, as there's no social security as in Western countries. I mean, there's a lot of, especially also monasteries, religious associations, Buddhist as well as Christian, also Muslim, who do who donate food. You see quite often in the streets in Yangon, like street kitchens who provide local communities in the poor areas with essentials, who are cooking or just hand out rice, oil, beans, like this. So it's really good to see that not only the Buddhists, but I've seen, NGOs as well, non-religious, as well as Muslim, Christians, helping the people in need here, which is really great. And I also personally, we have my tour company. We also have a small charity, and we arranged now in Dalla, which is across the river from downtown Yangon, very poor area, where there is a slum area, which we support since several years already. We installed drinking water filters there. We built toilets there last year, also with donations from our guests. And we talked to the ward administrator yesterday. We're getting 50 bags of rice today, and we'll donate them on Sunday to the people there. It's for around 300 families we can help, because the government, they are helping, but so it's not enough. So the ward administrator is a friend of mine, and he asked us for help, and as we can help, we have some funds, donations from guests, so we can buy 50 bags of rice and donate them this Sunday. The last small thing we can do to contribute. Of course, I do hope that coronavirus, the whole situation, will also have positive effects, like just make people think what is actually really important in life, what is life about. And these things like as nationalism and separation of religions. Yes, I hope very much it will have an effect and it will change for the better. But some people, they are very resistant to change, and I don't have any illusion it will disappear or it will not happen anymore. But I hope, and I'm sure on a small scale, like a bit, it will change for sure to the better.
Finally, we wrap up with Matthew Schojan, an American meditator who is the founder of Wandering Meditators and leads regular group sittings at the Alliance Française in Yangon. An expert in the field of mental health, he talks about the impact he has seen due to the pandemic, as well as his decision to remain at home in Yangon with his family and dog.
I've been based here in Myanmar for over 5 years now. It was 5 years in April. And that's after about 8 or 8.5 years in Thailand. And my wife and daughter and I have been in the region for nearly 15 years at this point. And what brought us here initially, I was born and raised in New York, and my wife grew up in California. We had met in New York, and early on, she had told me that she does international development work and was planning on
working outside of the US, and I was well rooted in New York, but no longer really interested in the work I was doing there, and I'd become a bit disillusioned by the lifestyle in New York. I was also focusing quite a bit on meditation at that point and sitting with different teachers in the US, primarily around Vipassana and through the lineage taught by Jack Kornfield and others, Dharma punks, and then against the stream meditation, as well as sitting with teachers like Sharon Salzberg when they came through, and the rare opportunities to sit with the Dalai Lama when he offered teachings there. Before leaving New York, I had traveled to India and Thailand and spent time meditating in different spaces and centers. So when we were looking to travel and to leave the US, we decided on moving to Asia at least as a first stop to continue that exploration of meditation, of mindfulness, and spend more time learning the Dharma and finding places to sit and go deeper into Vipassana practices. And initially we ended up in Nepal and spent a few meditation retreats there, studying with a Rinpoche in the Kagyupa tradition, as well as doing some other self-sittings and just really immersing ourselves in the communities there. From there, we were planning to come to Myanmar, and because of the challenges of visa and the things that were going on at the time, this was back around 2005, 2006, we ended up in Thailand, and we were based in Chiang Mai and just settled in there. It was a bit of a challenging time to be able to enter Myanmar. So we ended up spending a year and a half in Chiang Mai, and quite a bit of that time was on meditation retreat with different teachers, and there was such a rich community of meditators there, and really enjoyed learning more about the Dharma there, but always had an interest in coming to Myanmar and learning more about so many of the teachers and traditions that I had heard about and read about while beginning this exploration in the US. So upon arriving in Myanmar about 5 years ago, having a young child, I wasn't able to, or I chose not to, attend many meditation retreats, not like pre-child in Thailand, where I was able to go and spend weeks at a time on retreat and really be much more immersed in the Dharma community there. However, I did find a weekly meditation group that was made up of a mix of foreigners and locals that were sitting together at the French Institute. And after a few sessions there, and enjoying just the community that it served, a person was leaving and asked if I could continue on the group. So I've been doing that weekly meditation group for the last few years, and I had co-led meditation groups in Chiang Mai, in Brooklyn when I lived in New York, as well as offered residential retreats for gap year students when we were in Thailand as well. And I've really been grateful to be able to offer a space for people who are both new and also just seeking a community, a calm and informal space to develop this practice together. Also, while here in Yangon,
I've been working around the mental health space and working with community-based mental health services and providers, working with local organizations to strengthen their capacity for providing mental health services in their communities, particularly in hard-to-reach communities around the country. I've often found that the intersection between meditation, Buddhism, and mental health has been quite strong, and my interests across both spaces often overlap. This intersection initially was birthed through my exploration of the mind from a Buddhist perspective, from a meditator, a yogi's perspective. And the more that I studied and meditated and went on retreats, the more interest I had in studying the mind from a psychological perspective. And while in Thailand, I decided to go back to school and do an undergrad in psychology online while continuing to meditate and be immersed in the Dharma there. So looking at Western psychology and Western psychological ideas and underpinnings through a Buddhist lens often has similarities in how one looks at the mind and in how we understand our minds, our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions and feelings, and having that kind of permeate the different parts of my life. It helped me to find a livelihood, a right livelihood, if you will, that really resonated with me. And it's been a way to coalesce these two interests and areas of life. We spend so much time working, and to find a way to utilize the interest and passion that I've developed around the Dharma and around meditation has really been an area that I'm grateful for, to have a livelihood that is often in line with my ideas and learnings around Buddhism and mindfulness and meditation. The onset of COVID and watching this arise in the world and tracking it through the news and media from China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, and out into Europe and the US, impact the entire world. Being in Myanmar with a family and a young child, there were many conversations on what to do, how to respond. My wife and I have been working in the humanitarian sector for many years now and are used to responding to crises. But at the same time, these are often isolated crises where if something is happening in a country, a conflict or a natural disaster, there are usually options to go to another place or to shelter there. But the uniqueness of a global pandemic is there aren't other safe spaces or explicitly safe because the entire world is affected. And it's made for challenging decisions and a lot of discussion on what would be best for our family. Do we stay here in Yangon and shelter in place in our home where we have our life, where we've been for over 5 years, where we know the situation? We know both the challenges and the benefits of being here and being in our house. Or do we decide to move? Do we decide to go somewhere else and to weather out this pandemic? And initially, we were thinking that perhaps we should go to Thailand, and there was quite a flight of many foreigners who had left Myanmar to head to Thailand, sometimes because they felt that the health system there was quite strong and could manage dealing with the pandemic. Others gone for the accessibility of having such a large international airport if further flights were needed to get to other destinations. And we weighed this for several weeks as the pandemic was evolving. Even though we're American, the idea of returning to the US was not really an option we were exploring very heavily. The response was being presented in the US did not offer much in terms of comfort. In our considerations around returning to the US, because we haven't lived there in so long, it's been well over a decade, we would have had to initially stay with family or quarantine initially, and then stay with family or find our own place to live for an undetermined period of time. And our parents are quite old, so it wouldn't have been safe to have stayed with any of them, or so we felt at that point. And we really took the option of returning to the US for this COVID pandemic off the table quite early. But we were very much back and forth about going to Thailand. And one of the things that kept us here in Myanmar, perhaps there were two key decisions. One was around our ability to stay in our home with everything that we had here in terms of food, generator, other having connections here with work, with friends and community that could help support if things did get difficult, as opposed to going to a place in Thailand where we would not have a lot of that for a period of time that we don't know. And also having a dog as well, a very large golden retriever in tow, made some of these decisions even more complex, because it's not as easy to pack up a large dog and travel to a place and find a place that would be willing to accept us as a family with a large dog. In the end, we chose to stay here in Myanmar. We weighed these pros and cons and accepted that given our personal health, our connections to community and work here, and also the work that we knew we needed to do and continue doing in the humanitarian space here, working around mental health and the stressors that would be on communities at this time, and the need for support around mental health services, and the knowledge that uprooting our daughter, who was already challenged with switching to online schooling, as well as being separated from her friends and so forth, would be difficult to take her out of our home where she had all of her stuff and everything that she knew, was something that we chose to circumvent. So we opted we would stay here and shelter in place with our supplies, with our community, with our ability to have other options if needed, but to really see where this unfolded further. We saw very early on in the mental health space that globally, with the uncertainty of COVID, as well as the need and restrictions being put on people to quarantine, to shelter in place, to become socially or physically distant, there's quite a lot of stress around that. And in our work around mental health, we were looking at how to get messaging out to help people understand the stress that they're experiencing, and also provide options and support resources for how to cope with all of the stress. Stress of having someone sick in your family, the grieving or loss that comes if someone dies of COVID. Also, the fear around getting COVID or someone in your family getting COVID. The fear of all of the uncertainty in this pandemic, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing how long this will persist, not knowing if there will be a vaccine or when there will be a vaccine. And this was also further compounded by people not being able to work, many people losing their jobs, so not having an income coming in, which then puts stress on the family to be able to provide for their family with food, with housing, with other basic needs. And it's been a focus here in Myanmar with our work of how can we continue to support people, because there was also a limit on restrictions. So working with local organizations, we found ways and helped them adapt to provide remote services, to get mental health messaging out into communities, to help them learn more about stress and more about how to cope with stress and how to cope with it in skillful ways. So again, looking at this through the lens of the Dharma and of meditation, in terms of seeing what's happening and looking at the thoughts that are arising, the uncertainty that's arising, the fear, the feelings that are arising, how can those be dealt with skillfully? And looking at how to work in this space where we can't change what's going on outside externally, but we can work on shifting our relationship to it and providing and shifting our response to it and giving people resources and tools to be able to do that, helping them resource what they have available in terms of music, meditation, yoga, exercise, rather than other behaviors that may be less skillful, particularly at a time when we're under duress and stress. And this is something that we've been focused on over the last few months in helping people and supporting them through different platforms when local service providers and mental health professionals can't see people in person. How can we still support people by providing more information about how to take care of themselves, how to take care of their family and their communities at this time when they can't always be physically present? An important part of my experience here in Yangon has been the Sangha, the community that I've been engaged in over the last few years, our weekly meditation group that I mentioned earlier. And it was a beautiful respite in a way that has really helped ground my meditation and go a bit deeper than I do in my daily meditation. Being able to offer guidance and just come together in a community to support each other with our practice has been a really important part of my practice and experience over the last few years. When COVID started and restrictions began being put in place, where we were asked not to gather in groups of 5 or more, and then asked to shelter in place, we had to adapt. Just like with our work in mental health and needed to adapt and to offer remote services, we also took our Sangha, our meditation group, online. And we were already recording on Facebook Live for the last year or so, because the weekly meditation group that we have here has many people that are in and out. Some people come and they stay in Yangon for 3 months or 6 months or a year or two and then move on and end up in another part of the world, but oftentimes want to stay connected. So about a year and a half ago, there were some key people that were joining the group and sitting with us for the last couple of years that really wanted to stay connected. So we started recording live when we would be meeting in person at the French Institute. When we needed to bring the entire Sangha online, we were already ready in that way. And we've also added in Zoom as well and have incorporated that in, because after the first few weeks of going online and doing it just on Facebook Live, we noticed that even though we're still conducting a guided meditation and a bit of a talk, there wasn't the same engagement and connection that have been so important in the Sangha and in our community. So moving to Zoom as a platform where we could see each other and have time for discussion around what's going on in our meditation practice, what's going on in how we're dealing with the world and how we're responding and sitting with COVID and everything else that comes along with it, with being sheltered in place, needing to work in a different way, needing to engage in different ways, how to sit with the uncertainty of all of this and with all of the feelings and conditions that are arising. It's been a very supportive experience in terms of how do we stay together and stay connected, and bringing the Sangha and our community together through a video platform once a week has really helped that, has helped continue that conversation, has helped support our practice during this time where many of us see this practice as being essential for staying healthy, for being able to sit in the midst of all of the challenges that this COVID experience and conditions have presented. That has been something that I'm very grateful for. Having a daily meditation practice and having the training that we undergo with what we have here now with these conditions of COVID is exactly what we've been learning to sit with the impermanence of conditions, with the impermanence of all things. And our previous lifestyle has changed and we've needed to adapt. And how do we sit with that? How do we sit with uncertainty, with the whole range of the human experience? And that's been something that my meditation practice has helped me create space to process. And that has permeated out or expanded out into holding a space for others to do the same. How do we as a community sit with this and respond to this and come through this with more wisdom? And importantly, how do we stay compassionate during this time? How do we keep our heart open with all of the challenges? And how do we continue to grow personally and as a community and society in these challenging times?
And now, a message about these special coronavirus episodes. First, a caveat about our current podcast being produced during this expanding global pandemic. In this new age of social distancing, face-to-face interviews are of course no longer possible. An obvious consequence of this is technical. None of the guests we interview have access to a professional recording studio. Indeed, as some are living remotely in the Burmese countryside, they have little more than their phone's microphone to record and send messages. Our expert sound engineers have done their best to improve and enhance the quality, but there is a limit to even their magic. In a time when major network programs resort to home-recorded and mailed-in content, we are also trying to adjust to these new rules and limitations. So while we apologize for any difficulty you may experience as you listen to these episodes, we appreciate your understanding of the challenges we face in producing them. On another note, please keep in mind that the interviews on this episode were recorded at some time in the past, maybe just a few days to perhaps even more than a month ago. As a result, some of the factual details conveyed in these interviews may be outdated by the time you hear them. We hope you find some light and wisdom in the voices that follow. We are greatly appreciative for the time that they all generously provided to share their words and perspective. We wish all our listeners to stay safe and mentally sound and use this challenging experience to grow in Dhamma. This podcast is made by Dhamma practitioners for Dhamma practitioners. Let me take a moment to tell you about our team, who all bring technical skills along with their dedication to the Dhamma to this work. One sound engineer, Martin Combs, is a composer and producer living in the Netherlands. The other, Tharnge, is a local Burmese sound engineer who also helped us set up our recording studio. Zach Hessler is a former forest monk who lived in Myanmar that helps with content, and Ken Pransky uses his considerable skills in editing to help with our scripted content. As for me, I've been exploring how the Buddha's teachings are carried out in Myanmar for the last decade. We are very fortunate as well, because to cut our costs as low as possible to allow us to produce as many episodes as we can at this quality level, some members of our team are willing to work on this project as volunteers, and others take only a very small fraction of their usual salary. However, even so, alas, these episodes cannot be produced for free. Given the extensive work that's involved in even one 90-minute interview, there is a minimum fixed cost. And to cover those costs, we rely on listeners like you that benefit from this content. If you find the Dhamma interviews we are sharing of value and would like to support our mission, we welcome your contribution. You may give via Patreon at www.patreon.com/InsightMyanmar, as well as via PayPal at www.paypal.me/InsightMyanmar. In both cases, that's Insight Myanmar, one word, INSIGHTMYANMAR. If you are in Myanmar and would like to give a cash donation, please feel free to get in touch with us. You have been listening to the Insight Myanmar podcast. We would appreciate it very much if you would be willing to rate, review, and or share this podcast. Every little bit of feedback helps. If you are interested, you can subscribe to the Insight Myanmar podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, please check out our website for a list of our complete episodes, including additional text, videos, and other information available at www.insightmyanmar.org. If you cannot find our feed on your podcast player, please let us know and we will ensure it can be offered there. There was certainly a lot to talk about in this episode, and we'd like to encourage listeners to keep the discussion going. You can make a post, suggest a guest, request specific questions, and join in on discussions on our Insight Myanmar podcast Facebook group. You are also most welcome to follow our Facebook and Instagram accounts by the same name. If you're not on Facebook, you can also message us directly at burmadhamma@gmail.com. That's one word, burmadhamma@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to start up a discussion group on another platform, let us know and we can share that forum here. We would also like to take this time to thank everyone who made this podcast possible, especially our two sound engineers, Martin Combs and Tharnge. There's, of course, Zach Hessler, content collaborator and part-time co-host. Ken Pransky helps with editing. Dragos Bandita and Andre Francois make our sketches. GPU does our Burmese translation. Herman Perez, Santiago Haidar, and Marisol do our Spanish translations. And a special Mongolian volunteer who was asked to remain anonymous does our social media templates. We'd also like to thank everyone who assisted us in arranging for the guests we have interviewed so far. And of course, we send a big thank you to the guests themselves for agreeing to come and share such powerful personal stories. Finally, we're immensely grateful for the donors who made this entire thing possible in the first place. We also remind our listeners that the opinions expressed by our guests are their own and not necessarily reflective of the host or other podcast contributors. Also, this recording is the exclusive right of Insight Myanmar podcast. It is meant for personal listening only and cannot be used without the express written permission of the podcast owner. This includes any video, audio, written transcript, or excerpt of any episode. That said, we are open for collaboration, so if you have a particular idea in mind for sharing any of our podcasts or podcast-related information, please feel free to contact us with your proposal. Finally, we welcome your contribution in any amount, denomination, or transfer method. You may give via Patreon at www.patreon.com/insightmyanmar, via PayPal at www.paypal.me/insightmyanmar, or by credit card by going to www.insightmyanmar.org/donation. In all cases, that's Insight Myanmar, one word, INSIGHTMYANMAR. If you'd like to give especially to support our new run of coronavirus episodes, please go to the GoFundMe site and search for Insight Myanmar to find our campaign there. If you are in Myanmar and would like to give a cash donation, please feel free to get in touch with us. With that, thank you for listening, and we welcome back next show.